It's Thursday, April 2. This is the news on PBCJ. I'm Carol Francis. The island has now recorded 44 cases of COVID-19. Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, provided an update at a digital press conference on Wednesday.
Jamaica has recorded its third COVID-19 patient death. The third patient is a 41-year-old male from Wimbledon who had a travel history from the UK. He tested positive on March 23rd. He had some underlying conditions, and experienced renal failure, and regrettably passed away earlier this afternoon. The second patient, who died yesterday, cause of death is still under investigation, and we did send out a statement with some particulars, but we are going to reserve final conclusion until those investigations are completed. Jamaica now has a total of 44 confirmed cases of COVID-19. That's the next important announcement to note. Today we received information from the National Influenza Center, which advised us of 6 new confirmed cases. This represents the highest number of positives we've had in terms of a batch of tests, except though I'd like to just say that we did quite a number of tests. I think it was 53 tests. So of the 53, 6 are positive. The other important note to take into consideration related to these positives is that all of the 6 positives are linked to the quarantine community in southeast Clarendon of Cornpeace.
Dr. Tufton also gave an update on other cases throughout the island.
There are 24 imported cases, 17 imported related cases, and 3 cases under investigation. In terms of the age, the average age of the confirmed patients is 51 years, ranging from a minimum of 12 years to a maximum of 87 years. And there are 21 females and 23 males who have been confirmed as having COVID-19 to date. In the meantime, we have 44 persons who are currently in isolation. 24 persons are under quarantine in a government facility. In addition, of course, to the 140 Cuban health professionals who are being quarantined, I think, until this weekend, when they will be allowed to engage the public health system to bolster our frontline defense.
Health officials have addressed criticisms that they have not been doing enough testing for COVID-19. The matter was addressed at a digital press conference on Wednesday. Gabriel Thompson has more in this report.
Speaking at a digital press conference on Wednesday, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton addressed concerns regarding the extent of the testing for COVID-19 across the island.
I know that there are questions that have arisen as it relates to the extent of testing, and if there are still uncertainties around that, I will ask the Chief Medical Officer to comment when we get into the questions. But having reviewed the protocol, we have had consultations with senior virologists and infection control specialists, of course guided also by the WHO, PAHO. We are of the view that the testing has been sufficient to date in giving us an indication of the virus or the presence of the virus in the population. It has allowed us to monitor our healthcare frontline workers because they're also a part of that protocol of testing. And the more general testing that takes place for persons who have respiratory ailments and are in hospital but have no link to a positive case, we include them in that sampling.
Dr. Tufton said there will also be a protocol assigned to the deployment of mobile units for testing.
The ministry will be essentially engaging mobile units, which will be branded to indicate their purpose. And those units will be deployed in parishes across the country. We're going to begin in the Southeast Regional Health Authority, SERA, and Northeast Regional Health Authority region. And there will be a protocol assigned to the deployment of those mobile units where persons who have a desire to be tested would be subjected to that protocol in terms of an assessment done or triage, as would be done in an accident and emergency context. And if they meet the specific requirements or criteria, then the samples would be collected by those units and tests administered, and they'll be contacted and given appropriate counseling and guidance.
In the meantime, Chief Medical Officer Dr. Jacqueline Besese McKenzie reiterated that no private labs should be doing tests.
At the present time, there should be no private labs that are doing tests. I just want to take the time again to just remind the public that every test that is done is to be reported to the Ministry of Health and Wellness.
The World Health Organization is urging countries across the globe to escalate testing, isolation, and contact tracing, which is the backbone of the response to the COVID-19 pandemic. With the number of COVID-19 cases in Jamaica now at 44 and expected to climb, the country can expect to see a more concerted effort from health officials for testing. For the news on PBCJ, I'm Gabrielle Thompson.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness says that if the country had the National Identification Registration or NIDS in place, it would be easier to track delinquent travelers who arrived in the island since March 18. He made the point in an address in the House of Representatives.
Mr. Speaker, approximately 7,000 persons would have come into the island between the 18th and the 23rd. The 23rd being the effective date when our borders were closed off, or rather our airport was closed to inbound passenger traffic. Mr. Speaker, we have estimated from our checks of the various records that we have, aircraft manifest and so forth, that approximately 1,500 persons would have left the island. And therefore, we have a net number of approximately 5,500 persons who came into the island who are probably here. Mr. Speaker, we have reports from about 400 persons who have contacted the Ministry of Health through the various portals that we have announced, being the website, the email address, and the numbers which I just announced. So those persons, I would like to thank them for reaching out to us.
Mr. Holness said the country needs to be able to identify all its citizens, especially in times of crisis.
Most persons don't have identification. So it's always a difficult task when we have to apply these person-specific or category-specific public policy measures without being able to truly identify who fits into the categories. We absolutely, Mr. Speaker, need to have a national identification system. Mr. Speaker, other countries have been able, and I look at the case of Singapore and South Korea and Taiwan and other such countries, and how they have managed to keep their numbers in check and manage by virtue of being able to have their citizens self-quarantine. And they are able to track their citizens in quarantine. Mr. Speaker, our society has to evolve to that level. Our society must have, Mr. Speaker, a national identification system where all our citizens
In 2019, Chief Justice Brian Sykes struck down the proposed NIDS bill on the basis that some aspects of it were unconstitutional. This was a blow to government's momentum on social reform. The bill is currently being retooled with broad stakeholder inputs for it to be brought to Parliament in this legislative year. The advent of the COVID-19 pandemic has added fuel to the government's push to institute NIDS. And as the country intensifies its fight against COVID-19, nightly curfews began on Wednesday. The curfews will run each evening from 8 to 6 in the morning. This is slated to continue for the next 7 days. Reporter Marlon Samuels toured the streets of the corporate area with members of the security forces on Wednesday night and filed this report.
The members of the security forces rolled out to enforce day one of the island-wide curfew, which began at 8 on the night of April 1. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson led from the front.
It's not unusual for me to be on the street at night. I like to see what's going on. But particularly tonight, this is the first night of restricting movement and having people stay indoors. I want to see how much people were complying. And it also gave me an opportunity to go around to various stations and check that the officers have the gear that they need and that they're out there doing what they need to do.
The commissioner says every effort is being made to ensure members of the security forces have the necessary protective gear to carry out their duties. Gloves, sanitizers, and masks have been distributed to members of the security forces.
What we have the least of is masks, especially N95 masks. But we're competing for masks with everyone. And Jamaica is competing with the world. So we have had a flow, an inflow. And of course, it's really those people who are getting closest to persons who are exhibiting symptoms who really need that type of mask. What has been said to us so far by the Ministry of Health and the World Health Organization, it's about the general use of masks by our members because they have to interact. They have masks on them. They may not have it on all the time. And because there's a shortage, of course, they can't just throw them away as soon as they finish a shift and all that. Depends if they use it. If they come in contact, if the mask is contaminated, then obviously we have to supply a new one.
During the night, the commissioner addressed any shortfall in the protective gear noted. According to the commissioner, there was a 96% compliance rate. The remaining 4% tried to play a cat and mouse game with the security forces. As the security teams wended their way through the streets, they came across a number of persons who had breached the curfew.
What are you doing out here?
I'm doing out here. I don't have nowhere to live.
Where you live?
2211 and you're your friend.
So what are you doing here?
Oh, you're not far right. Talk to me more this time, man, and stop.
Sure. But I called up from there.
Yeah, but you know me already.
I don't know you.
Allah you tell man. Allah you tell man.
Put on the back.
Yo, Allah you telling a man. Allah you telling a man.
Put on the back.
Allah you telling a man.
Sure. Put on the back. Put on the back. Rasta, let go off of the back.
No matter if you want to, you can do now again. I'm not doing nothing.
Step right, listen. Stand up right, listen, boss.
And you know me, Tino?
From where?
What you mean you're going to know me? It's a food in my bag and something there.
Sir! Rasta, leave the bag.
I have nothing in the bag, far right. I don't have nothing in my bag.
Where you up on the street?
I don't have nowhere to live.
Sir, you're not going to stay.
22 minutes, obviously, I'm going to go.
Hello? You're going by the station and go to jail tonight. So where you going now? Yes. So why you never stay where you're there at this time? So why you stay there so late? The curfew order start 8 p.m. It's now minutes to 9 o'clock.
Hello, sir, come here.
So where you going to reach by your store now?
During the curfew, you have a lighted,
What?
what's that? Officer, sir. Put your hand
It's
there.
alright, it's something we have to talk and people from there.
Get them legs and search him properly.
Have the bag at the back.
I think. Hands up. Do a proper search.
There's no joke in
Yes, sir.
No, but you wouldn't. So where you get fear now? So who you reach half the tree? Yeah, so when you get money here, that means tonight, the whole country that down. You know, left one of the compound now, come to police. Trouble. You say now, Spanish town now. So who you going to reach Spanish town? That's the question I'm asking.
Oh, Jesus can come now. And if you can watch and pray. That's why I'm on the road this time.
Curfew.
If God comes, you ready for God heaven?
Yeah, man.
You ready for God heaven, Lord? If God comes.
Relevant.
Major Anderson is appealing to all well-thinking Jamaicans to obey the nightly curfew from 8 in the evenings to 6 in the mornings.
It's really important that our citizens comply with this. It makes our job easier and it makes you safer and us safer. So please comply with what has been laid down and the protocols. Stay safe. Thanks.
Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I am Marlon Samuels.
And even as the JCF enforced the island-wide curfew, they have not let down their vigilance in core areas. They are still fighting crime and also supporting the Ministry of Health and Wellness in its quarantine efforts.
We're still dealing with crime. We're still dealing with all of those matters. We're still significantly supporting the Ministry of Health in terms of quarantine, checking people, quarantining areas. As you're aware, we have persons deployed in Cornpeace enforcing a community quarantine there, no longer in Bull Bay, but we're also assisting at quarantine centers to provide security, and also we've been escorting people, especially people who have to get out of the country, moving people across along with health. We've also gone and been checking on persons who had come in after the 18th, along with the Ministry of Health. And of course, we actually have to do this because we're across the entire country. And really, we actually have more capacity than most to assist in this crisis.
One man is now in a jail cell after he made a video in defiance of the island-wide nightly curfew, which took effect on Wednesday. In the video posted on social media, he is heard using a stream of invectives against Prime Minister Andrew Holness and the police. Several persons are also seen in the video where the man boldly declared they would defy the curfew order.
We out here, we not going, see there. Life, me, I make sure go. We out here, we not going. Andrew wanna you can't have a control again, walk on control, man. Bad man, yeah, see there, Andrew them, since bad man friends to there. We not going up tonight.
The police acted quickly. The community was identified and the man who made the video found and arrested.
Man, this is a big police.
Alright, come.
Fine him.
Miss Blake.
So now go in, see man.
See you man, see man.
Right. Note, we have found the man that we're looking for, so you can stand down on the record. He was on the bed hiding, but we found him.
A reminder that the nightly curfews will run for a 7-day period beginning at 8 each evening until 6 the following morning. This is one of several measures implemented by the government to curtail movement in the hope of arresting the community spread of COVID-19. The Jamaica Urban Transit Company JUTC routes are back to normal despite the 8 p.m. to 6 a.m. all-island curfew. JUTC says this comes in the wake of concerns expressed by its stakeholders following a statement Wednesday announcing changes to its operations due to the curfew. The company expressed that it continues to play its part in providing valuable transportation services to the public, including members of the essential services. In the lead-up to the curfew, which began on Wednesday, the JUTC had announced changes, namely that the rollout of buses will start at 8 a.m. rather than the usual 5:30 a.m. Also that the Hills route above Rocks and Border, including routes 52, 53, 54, 61, and that their last run will be at 4:30 in the afternoon. The last available bus was to run at 5 p.m., which will allow for drivers on completion of their cycle trip to return back to the depot and to head home before the curfew deadline. The United States government has committed 95 million Jamaican dollars to mitigate the spread of the COVID-19 outbreak in Jamaica. The U.S. Embassy in Jamaica says these funds will go directly towards Jamaica's emergency response to the COVID-19. According to a U.S. Embassy statement, the United States, via the USAID, is coordinating with the government of Jamaica, international humanitarian partners and other stakeholders to identify priority areas for investment. One of these sectors impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic is agriculture. Jamaica's food security has long been a major concern. For now, the issue of food supplies are not pressing, but as the effects of global lockdowns mushroom, smaller import-dependent countries like ours could see shortages in food supplies in the months ahead. One group that is not troubled by this is Rastafarian Dermot Fagan and members of the Haile Selassie School of Vision. Having removed themselves from traditional society, they have secured their food supplies through farming. Marlon Samuel spent time with them in their commune located in the Blue Mountains.
Agriculture has been touted by many as the single most important tool to end extreme poverty and boost prosperity. The need to have secure, ready access to quality, nutritious food is crucial to the survival of the human race. Agriculture is also a major contributor to job creation and economic growth. It's against this background that the leader of the Haile Selassie School of Vision, Dermot Fagan, says he and members of the school have been involved in farming. This is to ensure they have food security for what he describes as the dark days ahead.
They're coming to hardship upon a class of people. Not for all the people here this hardship is for. The hardship will be for those that know that the microchip will be the mark and abstain themselves or withdraw from it. Imagining that at that time you won't be able to retain your ownership of your house. You wouldn't be able to retain a driver's license. You wouldn't be able to have a passport. You wouldn't be able to have a part in the banking system which incidentally is going online. You wouldn't be able to get no water, no light, no business transaction with the government in those years. I don't see those years exceeding 4 or 5 years, bringing in a tribulation which will be more grievous than what we have here now, where sales are lacked, things are shutting down. It's going to be the same thing for the people in those years ahead. They won't be able to get nothing from the government, and that is why I have occupied this position. When those days come, I and those that are with us, in the name of Haile Selassie, the land that we have taken for occupation, we say taken for occupation to differentiate squatting or capturing, because we don't need this. Ships of fire. Bible says chariots of fire. The Europeans say UFO. The places will be burned. So we are here to secure ourselves, and we are in waiting for the arrival of Haile Selassie.
COVID-19 is seen as a threat to Jamaica's food security. Border closures and quarantines could disrupt the supply chain and limit people's access to sufficient and nutritious sources of food.
I'm an ex-soldier. I don't work under that order no more. I now see myself as a soldier of the cross, a soldier of the emperor, a soldier of the king. And as one of his priests, it is not about me. I'm just an instrument then, one that is chosen to do a job or to carry out some duties. In that aspect, my appointment is that I should teach the nations that want to hear, the people in our nation that wants to hear, that we have taken this mountain in occupation because we know for years in advance that there comes a time where things are going to be hard in the society out there, as it is evident today. So that is why we are here. And the land that we are on now, by the way, I'm so sorrowful today that you didn't get the chance to go another, the same distance from down there to where you are would be from where you are now to up where we call higher heights. You would be astonished to see what we have there. Acres of yam, banana, plantains, cassava, sweet potato, herb.
For Priest Fagan, the threat posed will not affect them, as they have been preparing for years by growing their own supplies at the School of Vision commune. We paid a visit to the community, which is situated off the beaten path in the Blue Mountains. To get there, you have to wend your way up a steep, narrow path and balance on strategically placed logs. Wedged into the mountainside, the first impression on arrival at the School of Vision is a well laid out community. When you look around, you see many busy tilling the land.
What's your role here?
Well, I am now the minister of the farm. Yes, I. Me are the one who try to make everything alright, make sure the farmer go in line and all of that.
And on Wednesday we have a woman farm, but we down here today we don't want a woman farm today because we have our own farm around the corner around there. And we go to the next farm up on the top that you call Higher Heights. Yeah, I enjoy my time here. I like farming very much. I like to eat what we grow what we eat and eat what we grow.
All right, my role on the farm is to put in food. Just go and put in as many food as possible. Till when time God people them come, them can have something to eat.
A variety of cash crops are grown on the farm, including bananas, pineapples, sweet potatoes, and tomatoes. Marijuana is also grown to be used for religious sacrament.
So they all want to find out about the Rastas. I know that we have our sacramental ganja rights. As you can see, that is our herb field. We don't have to hide from nobody because that belongs to the church. When the visitors come, they can get an idea how the herb is grown. And we can also show them how it is used within the context of the law. Well, it can be Googled, and I have been in consultation or in meetings rather with the previous minister, and I met him the other day in Johnstown, the Honorable Mark Golin, a virgin of mine, and he's now in opposition. And the current one is Delroy Chuck. At the time it was the Ganja Fest. Nick really might have heard about it, big thing like Rebel Salute. So we have gotten a book from the ministry, and it shows the rights of the citizen and the rights of the Rastafarian. And I think we have gotten the first rights, which is justifiable so, because we are the ones being crucified and being stigmatized for it. So they give us what they refer to as sacramental right, which means sacramental mean the church. So then the day is gone when we have to hide and smoke a spliff. I'm not speaking out in public space, because not only spliff, cigarette and certain things are discouraged in certain areas, so we abide by that rule. But for example, within our occupied space, no police and no soldier not going to come here and beat you no more. Whether them see the chalice, a smoke, or the spliff a smoke, or him come and see the herb. The government say even for each residence you can have 5 plants, and as Rastas we're going to agitate, and we are in process of that, for a full legalization.
According to Priest Fagan, his sustainable farming efforts are supported by members of corporate Jamaica.
And we are supplied now with things from the RADA. And as I said earlier on, we have gotten a 2 million grant from Digicel. Blessings again today as I am speaking here for these 2 agencies, by the will of God. The Digicel Foundation, which is a great help worldwide to people using farming and sustaining them through farming. The RADA, as you know, Rural Agricultural, they are with us. So yes, we feel strong in that area with these 2 agencies. We will put ourselves in a position not only to sustain ourselves through agriculture and farming, but to help even our immediate neighbors and whosoever might need help in those dark days ahead. We are confident of that, even from now.
Agritourism is a huge part of the commune activities. The priest says most times the school is overwhelmed with visitors.
We have visitors, we have a guest house influence here, so we have been having visitors from all over the world, different nations, and it's just because of the COVID-19 now we have put that on restriction, no visitors until it is more normalized.
Tell me some of the places visitors travel from.
Hey, all right, America is like heaven now, so we say America, start off, England, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, my Lord, name it, and Africans too. Yeah, Japanese mainly, not much Chinese have come our way.
But what they come searching for?
Well, actually, believe it or not, the world want to know the mystery, because there was a magazine that showed the dreadlocks as the world mystery man, meaning the people want to know our culture, what Rasta is about. And I think Bob Marley have been a great influence, propagating then the main part of our message, which is the divinity of Haile Selassie. So all of the people came here mainly is towards finding out what we are about as a people, Rasta people, and also how we eat. And we have a craft shop and different things that are made. And we have roots wine and ganja oil. We are right. We are right. So people, and as soon as this thing is more normal, we will open back the door for our guests. Because we've linked up with some agencies and with the tourist boards, people come and around the community have guest houses, maybe about 4 or so.
The residents of the commune manufacture several products.
The gift shop, we have empresses here, as you might imagine, and they are articulated in different areas. Knit, this, that, you name it, they make everything. We are doing a super center now where we will actually move the craft shop from that little space to be more elaborate. And they make all different things, belt, scarf. It's all on Instagram, you can find it, Rasta Camp, gift shop and so forth. Now we have a sister there named Lisa. She came here with her brand. She makes soap, organic soap. She make ganja oil. She make, and some of them is cold press. She make coconut oil. She make neem. My wife make moringa oil. She make ganja. She make a moringa wine too. I know that is the first one into the in the edibles in the brewery. I start off with the pre-slaughter roots wine from 2001 all over Jamaica. Yeah, and I have the ganja wine now that is made out of the ganja, spiced with certain spices, and we have banana wine. We have detox, which is a form of bitters, combination of bitters, neem, tenze, bitterwood, chicken toe, rice bitters, sorosi, boiled with ginger or pimento that it does not smell then. Yeah, we have everything here, man. As a group, we make that. When we say as a group, it is not so well, all of it belongs to. You have the individual that does this, that one do. So we work the thing.
As the COVID-19 virus spreads, disruptions to Jamaica's food supply is limited. However, our food systems will be tested and strained in the coming months, and the poorest will be those most affected. Priest Fagan is of the belief that a greater focus needs to be placed on agriculture. Perhaps this is the time to place greater effort on our backyard gardens. Reporting for the news on PBCJ, I'm Marlon Samuels.
Welcome to Wimbledon.
In our Living Healthy feature this week, we hear from the World Health Organization on testing for COVID-19. And Simone Absalom tells us about the effects of the virus on breastfeeding and how you can help spread the message of positivity.
The new coronavirus is highly contagious. The disease can spread from person to person through small droplets from the nose or mouth, which are spread when a person with COVID-19 coughs or exhales. These droplets land on objects and surfaces around the person. Other people then catch COVID-19 by touching these objects or surfaces, then touching their eyes, nose, or mouth. But what about mothers who are breastfeeding? Can mothers who have the coronavirus still breastfeed or give their child their breast milk without worrying that the baby will contract the disease? World Health Organization's Dr. Maria Van Kerkhove explains.
So we do have some evidence of COVID-19 in pregnant women. And from the data that we have, it doesn't seem to cause a different disease in pregnant women as it would in the same aged woman who's not pregnant. So that's good news. And we haven't seen transmission go from a mother to the fetus. So that is good. We've just recently put out some updated clinical guidance for adults, and which also include pregnant women. So that's on our website for the clinicians out there.
The Center for Disease Control says a mother should take all possible precautions to avoid spreading the virus to her infant, including washing her hands before touching the infant and wearing a face mask if possible while feeding at the breast. If expressing breast milk with a breast pump, the mother should wash her hands before touching any pump or bottle parts and clean after each use. If possible, considering having someone who is well feeding the expressed milk to the infant. If you have not delivered your baby, your body is experiencing changes that may increase your risk of some infections. The Center for Disease Control and Prevention says pregnant women should do the same things as the general public to avoid infection, like cover your cough using your elbow is a good technique. Avoid people who are sick, and clean your hands often using soap and water or alcohol-based hand sanitizer. The CDC says there is no information at this time on whether or not COVID-19 would cause problems during pregnancy or affect the health of the baby after birth. If you think you have been exposed to someone with COVID-19, getting tested is your best option. Head of the WHO says testing is key to fighting the disease.
Testing is important to understand the status of an individual, but testing is also important to see, what the situation looks like. For instance, from the presentations of the 4 ministers, we saw that when they test, they go back and check those positives, how they got the infection. Some of them could be from a church gathering or a religious event, or others could be in a bar or a restaurant, or others could be in a social gathering for some purpose. And then the testing is not about that individual. It becomes about the event that happened and how to really address such events. So the testing doesn't tell you just a story about one person. It's a story about what happened when that person actually acquired the infection.
Now for a message to the wider society. Stigma can prevent some people from seeking medical care, especially for COVID-19 related symptoms. So it's very important to avoid stigmatization. You can help to avoid this by understanding that words matter. You know, sticks and stones will break your bones, and words can hurt emotionally. So do talk about the new coronavirus, but don't attach home addresses or ethnicity to the disease. Do talk about people who have COVID-19, those who recovered, but don't dwell on people who died after contracting COVID-19. Don't refer to people with the virus as victims. Instead, you can talk about people acquiring or contracting the disease. Do share accurate information about risks like not practicing social distancing and preventative measures. Do obey government protocols and advisory, as they can save your life and those around you. And encourage others to do the same. Don't repeat or share information that is not confirmed or words that spread fear. And that's it for this week's Living Healthy Report.
Motorists should see a decrease at the pumps in the price of gasoline and an increase in the price of diesel effective today. Based on the latest ex-refinery costs from Petrojam, 87 and 90 octane gasoline will be sold for $119.70 and $122.52 per liter respectively, down by $4.50 each. Automotive diesel fuel will be sold for $123.08 per liter, following an increase of 3 cents. Ultra-low sulfur is up by 1 cent and will be sold for $128 per liter. Meanwhile, kerosene increased in price by 5 cents and will be sold for $102.50 per liter. Propane liquid petroleum will be sold for $34.89 per liter, down by $4.50. Butane liquid petroleum will be sold for $45.46 per liter after an increase of 2 cents. Marketing companies and retailers will add their respective markup to these prices. The US dollar on Wednesday, April 1, ended trading at $134.71, down by 68 cents. That's according to the Bank of Jamaica's daily exchange trading summary. Meanwhile, the Canadian dollar ended trading at $940.42, down from $95.33. The British pound sterling ended trading at $170.48, up from $169.17. In regional news, the Bahamas has recorded its first death from COVID-19. There are 21 confirmed cases in the Bahamas. Prime Minister Hubert Minnis updated the island on Wednesday.
We have already lost one. In our population, that is one too many.
It was the news that the country anxiously anticipated but did not want to hear. The first death due to COVID-19 has now been confirmed by the nation's leader.
The COVID test on this particular individual has been positive. The family has been informed, and investigation and contact tracing has already commenced. We pray for the deceased and the individual's family members during this very difficult time.
The 51-year-old woman, Kim Roll, is said to have traveled recently, and health officials say contact tracing has begun in Bimini, and the healthcare facility will be sanitized to ensure that the health of personnel is not compromised. But during that press conference, even more disheartening news came, as the numbers of reported cases in the country have jumped from 15 to 21.
One of the new cases has a link to Grand Bahama. There are 1,500 diagnostic kits in our country today, and aggressive contact tracing continues. Health officials are following cases day by day. Through GIS mapping, we have identified hotspots on New Providence, and we have undertaken GIS mapping on Grand Bahama to identify hotspots there.
Speaking directly to the Family Islanders, the nation's chief pleading with those residents to take social distancing seriously.
The orders and the regulations we put in place apply also to the Family Islands. Those orders apply to the entire Bahamas. I am asking Family Island residents to stay at home, except for the exemption orders within our jurisdiction.
He also made this announcement.
There is to be no domestic travel within the country by plane or by boat. Be they boat by Bahamians who may claim to be fishing. Entering your shores may be devastating. Those who not abide by this may place other islands and keys and Bahamians in danger. They also take risk, and they risk being prosecuted.
And Guyana now has 19 confirmed cases of COVID-19. Health Minister Valda Lawrence updated the nation as well. Neola Damon of InfoHub Guyana has that story.
As of March 31st, 2020, 7 more persons were tested positive for the coronavirus in Guyana, taking the total number of confirmed cases to 19. Minister Lawrence said Guyana's inconclusive case remains as 1 and deaths remain at 2.
Of the numbers above, the regional breakdown is as follows: 1 in Region 3, 17 in Region 4 with 1 inconclusive, and 1 in Region 6. The total number of persons who have been tested has moved from 52 to 70, with 19 positives, 50 negatives, and 1 inconclusive.
The public health minister disclosed that 36 persons are in institutional quarantine.
Of the 11 persons in isolation, 1 person is hospitalized in the COVID-19 ICU unit. The number of persons currently on home quarantine known by the Ministry of Public Health is 119.
In an effort to mitigate the novel coronavirus, Minister Lawrence noted that her ministry continues to strengthen community and hospital surveillance and its rapid response surveillance team.
The Mabaruma Regional Hospital has developed an external triage area and a colored handband system for the differentiation of cases. A separate isolation facility has been identified with capacity for 8 to 10 persons and quarantine capacity for 2 persons, which will expand as we go along.
Meanwhile, describing them as the first line of defense, Minister Lawrence expressed her satisfaction with the efforts being made daily by the health workers across Guyana. She is also appealing to residents who are bent on stigmatizing these officials amid the COVID-19 pandemic to desist from doing so.
Let me first commend the courageous and indefatigable efforts of all of you. The Ministry of Public Health is appreciative of your daily sacrifice to keep us all safe. To all those who are bent on stigmatizing our health workers, refusal of entry to public transportation, among others, to immediately put an end to this. You are certainly being irresponsible and weakening our line of response by your negativity.
36,405 deaths have been recorded globally and 750,890 cases were confirmed. These figures were recorded from 210 countries. The numbers of deaths recorded in 51 countries in the regions of the Americas is 2,836 and 163,014 were listed as confirmed cases. Neola Damon, InfoHub.
And in sports, we are on the courts with tennis. Another major sporting event has been crossed off the calendar due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Wimbledon has cancelled for the first time since World War II. The All England club announced after an emergency meeting that the oldest Grand Slam tournament in tennis would not be held in 2020. Wimbledon was scheduled to be played on the outskirts of London from June 29 to July 12. It now joins the growing list of sports events scrapped in 2020 because of the COVID-19 outbreak. That includes the Tokyo Olympics, the NCAA men's and women's college basketball tournaments, and the European Soccer Championships. And that's our package. Join us again tomorrow, same time, same place for more news and sports right here on PBCJ, the People's Station.